Welcome to Doors to Hope and Healing, an inside look at the many facets of work that is happening at the Department of Children and Families, between our staff, the families we serve, and our community partners. My name is Jaqueline Ford. I have had the honor of working for the department for almost 30 years. And although I may be familiar with many of the topics we bring to you, I have invited experts in those fields to help us dispel the myths and misconceptions that can often be barriers to our work. Join us as we open our doors and invite you to have a seat at our table. Welcome to Doors to Hope and Healing. Today we highlight the journey of two incredible young people, Caden and Carlos, both who are in need of permanent, loving families to help them grow, heal, and thrive. They're unique individuals with different needs, personalities, and strengths, but they share one important hope: to belong in a home and to feel safe and stable and lasting. With us today are two compassionate professionals, but they share one thing in common: to get a home for the two children that they are advocating for today. Heather, who will speak with us about Caden, a medically complex 8-year-old who has overcome the incredible odds. And Aaron, who will talk to us about Carlos, a thoughtful teen who is looking for the structure, the connection, and the unconditional love that only forever families can offer. Heather and Aaron, thank you so much for being a part of Doors to Hope and Healing today. Before we get started and share who these two kids are with our viewing audience, tell me a little bit about yourself. Heather, let's start with you.
Okay. Hi, Jackie. I work for DCF in the permanency unit. I've been working here for about 22 years. And I'd say about 20 of those years I've been doing permanency, so focusing primarily on adoptions, trying to use specialized recruitment, find forever families, and being able to finalize adoptions.
Wonderful. We've had the pleasure of working together on a case from a long time ago, so I know that you're invested and compassionate about permanency.
Yes.
So we'll get back to you in a few minutes. And Aaron, can you introduce yourself to us?
Yep, my name's Aaron. I work with our TSS unit, which is our young adults who are teenagers and our adolescents who then go beyond 18 to continue working with the department. And I've been working for the department for just over 3 years.
Well, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you both here. And this is a great opportunity for us to share, the work that we do at DCF, why permanency is so important for our youth, for anybody, why permanency is so important. And also just to share, what the whole process for becoming involved as a licensed resource for us will entail. So Heather, let's start with you. Can you describe your role in supporting a child like Caden on his journey towards permanency?
Yes. So I've actually been working with Caden for about 6 years now. And in that time, it involves, doing visits to his foster home at least once a month. Because he is medically complex, he does have several different specialists that he has to see on a regular basis. Fortunately, he does have a foster mother who is wonderful, and she handles getting him to all of those appointments. But if there was a conflict and she wasn't able, then it'd be my responsibility to make sure he did get to the appointments, working with his foster mother and making referrals for any additional support services he may have, participating in PPTs that are held at the school to talk about his educational needs and progress. I go out to the foster home at least once a month to see him, do things like speak with you today in terms of specialized recruitment efforts to try to help him find his forever family.
That's wonderful. So how would you describe Caden to someone meeting him for the first time? If you were going to introduce him to someone, how would you explain him?
So I would first say Caden is a ball of energy. He does not sit still. He is very active, which is quite impressive given the fact that when he first came into the care of the department, his foster mother and the department had been told that he was more than likely not ever going to be able to walk, and that he probably wouldn't talk either. So he's very energetic. He always has a smile on his face. He's always very, very happy. And I don't think I've ever seen an adult interact with him that didn't end up kind of mirroring that smile, mirroring that happiness, because he just has so much joy. And I think in the 6 years I've been working with him, I think I've maybe seen him upset twice.
Wow.
So I would say, you know, he's definitely walking and he's definitely talking, and he's, you know, you definitely have to have some energy to keep up with him.
What kind of things bring him joy to have that spiritedness that he has?
Attention. He loves being the center of attention. He loves when you interact with him. He likes watching TV, but not like, you know, your typical kid who will sit in front of a television and zone out. You know, his foster mother will have him watch educational shows. And he will watch those shows and he will sing along with them, and he will make you sing along with them, you know, repeat after him. He loves to just interact with his foster mother and her family, and just, you know, he'll call, you know, if in the beginning stages of my relationship with him, when I would go out to the home and be talking with his foster mother, she actually needed to look at him while she was talking to me, because otherwise he was going, Mom, 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 because he wanted that attention and would get jealous if it wasn't on him.
Well, that was smart of her to know how to redirect that.
Yes.
Can you talk to us about his medical needs? So if one of our viewers is watching and they're interested in Caden, what would they need to know about his medical needs?
So first, he is a complete G-tube feed, which means he does not take anything by mouth. He doesn't drink, eat, anything like that. He does have what they call an oral aversion, which has become significantly better than it was when he first entered our care. But anything that he puts in his mouth could potentially, including his hands, could potentially cause him to trigger that gag reflex. And you know, he can either gag or vomit sometimes, although, again, that's significantly decreased. He does have asthma, which is, again, much better. Back when he first came into care, he had to have nebulizer treatments 3 times a day, followed by suctioning to clear his airways. Now he takes a inhaler once a day, and he only needs nebulizer treatments when he's sick. And he has not had to require suctioning in about 3 years now.
Wow, that's a big improvement.
He does also have a chromosomal duplication, which causes, he does not have Down syndrome, but he does have some developmental delays as a result of that duplication, which is why the doctor said he was never going to talk or walk. And then I'm just trying to make sure I got everything covered.
He's exceeded what that plan was for him, right? What the doctors and the providers thought his limitations would be, as far exceeded.
Yes, you know, and he on occasion, in the earlier stages of my involvement with him, he did have a wheelchair that he was sitting in, and he does not use that wheelchair at home anymore, and he does not use that wheelchair at school. He does have a chair that kind of resembles a wheelchair, but it's a chair to sit him in as he's getting his G-tube feedings. He is very savvy because he knows how to take that G-tube out. And he knows how to do it in a way that if you're not paying attention, you wouldn't even know it was happening. So his primary issues needs are the G-tube, the asthma, and as part of that oral aversion, and he has it. They call it secretions, but it's basically he can be a little bit drooly, for lack of a better word. It's just, you know, sometimes can drool, but Those are the major ones. He does have scoliosis as well, although he was just seen by the doctor last week, and they said that scoliosis is progressing, but it is not something that they are concerned about at this time, and they're not worried about it impacting his ability to be mobile.
And what about his educational plan and educational supports that he has?
So he is considered a special education student. He goes to O'Brien Elementary School, which is in East Hartford, which is a mainstream school. He is in a mainstream classroom with a para and with some additional supports. He does get pulled out for occupational therapy. He does go down and spend time with the nurse as needed, but also sometimes he will require a G-tube feed while he's at school, and the nurse will administer that. He used to have, and I'm sorry, I can't remember what it stands for, but he used to have something that was called AFOs, which were essentially braces on his legs that could help with his stability as he was walking. But he does have times where he's pulled out for his specials, if you will, but he spends time in a regular classroom with typical students who actually fight amongst themselves as to who gets to be the one to push Caden in his chair, interact with him. We've been very fortunate that the students that he's been around do not bully him. They see him as an equal peer, and they really enjoy being able to spend time with him because of his personality, because he is such a bright light.
Yeah, he sounds like a bright light, and I could tell how fond of him you are. How does he communicate his needs to those that are caring for him, either in the school setting or with his foster mom?
So it used to be that he kind of gesture or point until you figured it out. But now, because of the vocabulary he has and the way that it's been expanding, he can actually verbally communicate to you what it is he wants. Like, when I was out at the home the other day, he wanted me to play with him, and he sit down, and I sat on the couch, and he said, "No, sit here." And he, patted the floor, and then he'll give you instructions on what to do. He'll tell you to clap your hands, and if you don't do it, he claps them for you.
So he's clear.
Yes, he's very clear. Some of his language is a little, in terms of the enunciation of his words, it's a little bit slurred or not really clear. However, even somebody who doesn't know him very well can pretty easily decipher what it is that he's saying.
So he's been in the same foster home for more than 6 years. How has that consistency been for him? And I'm sure he's very bonded to this family. How has that experience been?
So I would say, I attribute his progress primarily to him, of course. But I would say that his foster mother and her family, that also lives in the home, I think having that consistency, having those same people there day in and day out, has really helped with his ability to progress and thrive and do things that the doctors said he wouldn't be able to do. We also have the benefit that his foster mother, when she was working, was a nurse. So she has that medical background. So she's able to intervene and respond to things in a way that, someone like me might not necessarily be able to do. But I think it's also helped him with his language, because wanting to get the attention of a particular person in the home, he had to teach himself how to call them by name so they knew who he wanted. And he definitely makes it very clear who it is he wants and what he wants them to do. So that consistency and having those same people show up for him day in and day out is critical to his development.
So what's important for our viewers to know about the family that would be the best match for Caden? What would you say to someone who's thinking about learning more about Caden? What would be a good match for a family?
Okay. So, and I would say that I'd preface this with this is not what it would have to be an absolute, but ideally, either a 2-parent household or a household that had more than one person in it, because again, he does need a lot of attention. He does want a lot of attention, and he could potentially run a single person ragged with chasing after him and yes. Yeah. I will say though that he does have he's eligible for support services like a visiting nurse, but I would say ideally a 2-parent household that has a lot of energy, patience, because again, he's gotten very good at pulling that G tube out, and awareness, being able to pay attention to that, because if he pulls that G tube out after a certain period of after a certain length of time, if that's not caught, then he would need to be brought to the hospital to have it surgically put back in. And just somebody who is able to have the time to bring him to his various medical appointments, because even though he is doing very well at this time, he still does have a lot of specialists that he has to see. He has neurology, GI, ENT, orthopedics, on top of his dentist and his regular pediatrician.
What would you say if someone felt like, oh, I'm just not qualified, or this sounds real scary to care for a child that has the needs that Caden has? What would you say to them?
I would say that fear or that concern is understandable, but I would also say that with the amount of support that he has in terms of his medical providers and the ability for there to be a visiting nurse, I think right now he has approval for 8 hours a day. Though there's a lot of medical professionals that are around that can help give the right training. He does have some needs, but they are not impossible to learn. And the needs that he has, or the medical concerns that he has that need to be addressed, are nothing compared to the personality he has, the type of child that he is, and the joy that he can, and happiness that he can and would bring to a family. So again, the concern, the anxiety is understandable, but there's training that can help make sure that you develop the skills you need to address that.
So before we move on to Aaron to talk about Carlos, if someone watching wants to learn more about Caden, what's the next step that they would take?
So the next step that they would take would be to reach out to you or our Adoption Resource Exchange.
Okay.
And then that would be sent along to me, that I would get in contact. It would get in contact, reach me.
Okay.
And then I would reach out to them. We would talk. I would give them more information on Caden. We would have what we call a disclosure meeting. And if they decided that this was something that they wanted to pursue further, they would then go through the process of becoming licensed as a foster parent. They would meet Caden. And then, from there, their contact with him would increase until Caden was ready and they were ready for him to come to their home.
Okay.
And his foster mother, again, like you said, he's been in the same home for about 6 years, and she loves him dearly. But her feelings are, as about her age, is that she's a little bit older, and, she feels like Caden deserves a family that can keep up with him as he gets older, as he gets even more active, even more mobile. And her concern is that that's not something that she would be able to do. However, she has been clear from the beginning that she would be willing to be in his life as much as his forever family would let her. And she is willing to be a support to make sure that transition is a smooth one. And even if they were to say, want to go away for a weekend, she would even be willing to consider doing things like taking him.
That's wonderful. She's a part of his life, the tapestry of his life. So, I mean, that would be the best scenario for him, right? To have that, maintain that bond with her. For our viewers that are watching, could you share your email address? So if anybody wanted to reach out to you directly, they can do that?
Yes. So my email address is my first name, which is Heather, HEATHER, CZERWINSKI @ct.gov.
Thank you. Thanks. And we'll also give the Kid Hero line number 2. So if someone didn't catch that and they want to call and inquire, they can also call the Kid Hero line and they can connect the caller to you and learn more about Caden.
Yes.
We'll come back to you for some of the questions that people may have about the whole process of becoming licensed. But Aaron, let's start with you, finish with you actually, with Carlos. So tell us about Carlos and what kind of young man he is.
Yeah, I would describe Carlos as a very optimistic and energetic and also hopeful young man, very smart as well. He always has a reason to have a smile on his face. He always finds a reason to have a smile on his face. He has his joys that he knows, and he also knows his story, I would say. He knows what he's been through, he knows his struggles that he's faced, and he knows what he wants for his future.
And how old is Carlos?
He's about 15 years old. He'll be turning 16 soon.
Okay. And can you share circumstances that led to Carlos being a part of the Department of Children and Families back in 2020?
Yes. So Carlos is a part of a sibling group that unfortunately faced significant abuse and neglect. And it was pretty consistent and repeated. And the department was very concerned for his safety. So despite trying our efforts to minimize those safety concerns with the family, we weren't able to do so. So we had to have him come into care.
Okay. And now he's legally free for adoption?
Yes. So we did, as of last summer, he is now legally free to be adopted, and we have been searching for that forever family for him.
And we're hoping that one of our viewers today, their heartstrings are tugged and they are interested in learning more about him. So how would you describe Carlos's personality? What brings out that smile that you talk about?
I think it's honestly just enabling his joys. He's a very creative kid and young man. He loves writing. He loves telling his stories, literally writing books in his own fantasy worlds that he creates. Like every teenage boy or a lot of teenage boys, he loves video games, but he also loves being outside and loves swimming as well. He also has a joy for school and takes it very seriously, and it prides himself on great grades.
And what are other types of hobbies that he likes to do?
I really did just talk about most of them as they're very important to him, but writing is a big piece. He has a very creative mind. I've watched him recreate a playing deck and remember the playing cards and the games and how to play them exactly from memory. He'll create his own games as well. And he loves Dungeons and Dragons and those stories that can be told through those as well. And he loves that group activity of doing these things with his friends.
The typical teenage boy, right?
Yeah.
Talk to us about his medical needs, including support for his encopresis.
Yes. So Carlos does still struggle with encopresis. It definitely has improved significantly. He is very aware of it occurring. And to briefly describe encopresis, I'm no doctor, but the base knowledge of what I know of it is it's a struggle to understand and be aware of when he may need to use the bathroom and relieve himself, or in the lack of self-control. So sometimes he'll wake up in the morning and he will have used the bathroom overnight. He works actively and understands with the caregivers he's had on how to address it, whether working with them to have fresh sheets of bed sheets always available in his room, knowing to take a shower and such, knowing to advocate when he realizes he needs to use the bathroom or clean himself. He will actively do that. And setting up routines for himself with his encopresis is huge. He does have an encopresis medical team that he meets with and has physical therapy as well for those to work on this. I would say Carlos does still work actively in therapy to also understand and better process the trauma he's been through, and that's an active part of his journey. Like I said earlier, he's very aware of what he's been through, and he knows that it's something he needs to move forward. He actively works at identifying his triggers and communicates those triggers to people who are caring for him and watching over him, and also actively has made lists to describe the coping mechanisms that work for him to help calm him down, and communicates those thoroughly.
How do you feel an adoptive family can help Carlos maintain that stability and be able to continue to address the trauma that he's experienced and be a safe space for him? What does that family look like to you, who's gotten to know him, over the past 5 months?
Yeah, I would say patience is the biggest thing. Patience and routine. I think patience is an important thing for all of our foster families and forever families, because our kids have been through a lot. But routine is a huge one for him to have expectations and know what those expectations are, know what his options are, know what he should expect when he gets home from school. Firm rules and boundaries are also very important. I think these are all great for just parenting skills in general, but for him to understand what is a do and a don't when it comes to what he should be doing at the home, when he should be interacting with people. Yeah.
Carlos registered with the Heart Gallery. How does that increase the visibility for him with the Heart Gallery?
Yeah, the Heart Gallery is on our DCF website, and it just helps publicize and talk more about Carlos amongst all the other kids and young adults that we have that we're looking for forever families for. And it's public access to read about their stories, and even a direct link to contact my office to say, hey, I'm interested in getting to know more.
And so for him to be in the Heart Gallery and be the age that he is, he has knowledge, right? That we're all working very closely together to find him that adoptive home. Does he have a good understanding of what is being done for him about finding an adoptive home?
Yeah, I think it's something I actually love when I'm working with young adults, is because I can have that conversation like, hey, what do you want people to know about you? What's important for you? What do you want out of a family? And he's very enthusiastic to talk about that with me.
For any of our viewers who are watching now, what is your email, so that if anyone wants to reach out to you directly, I know that they can visit our website to view him in the Heart Gallery, but if you can just share your email address so that people can get in touch with you. Oftentimes, our viewers like to have that personal contact with the people who know him best.
Yeah, so my email is Aaron, Aaron, Colon, Colon, @ct.gov.
Okay, and we'll have that information on the screen for our viewers as well. But unfortunately, we're at the end of our segment, and I know we have so much more to share about both of our kids here. But, our viewers, anyone watching, has direct contact. They can have direct contact with you. For all of you who are watching, if you'd like more information on the 2 children that we shared with you today, you can either email the social workers directly, or you can call 1-888-KID-HERO, and you can share your interest, and they will also guide you about the process for becoming a licensed foster or adoptive family. Thank you all for watching Doors to Hope and Healing, and have a good night.
Sometimes life just happens. Don't worry. Farmington Motorsports will get you back on the road and at a fair price. From towing to tires, emissions to transmissions.
Our ASC certified techs do it all.
Farmington Motorsports is a family-run business. We're a Napa Auto Center and AAA approved. We work on all makes and models, from preventative maintenance to major repairs.
And every repair is backed by our 2-year, 24,000-mile nationwide warranty.
When life happens to you, don't worry. Farmington Motorsports.